Hey everyone, welcome back to Unstoppable Futures, the podcast where young voices rise, real talk happens, and the futures get built, one episode at a time. I'm Nathan Mockley, Youth Coordinator at Ripen, and if you ever had someone give you advice that you didn't ask for, or feedback that hit you a little too hard, this episode's for you. Today we're talking about criticism. What is it, why it stings, and how to turn it into something useful instead of letting it shut you down. Whether it's a teacher's comment, a boss's review, or a random troll on social media, criticism is everywhere, and we're going to learn how to navigate it together. Let's get to it. Hello, Autumn. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being on.
Thank you, Nathan, for having me. I'm excited for this conversation today.
So, Autumn, do you want to give a little introduction about yourself?
Sure. My name's Autumn Johnson. I've been a board member for Ripen for a little over 3 years now. I am a full-time college unbound student with the goal of getting my degree in organizational leadership and change by next year in May. I do a lot of advocacy in my daily life, not only for myself, but for others. I co lead a support group called the Spinus Sisters Empowerment Collective. It's mainly a support group that seeks to help and empower other young girls and women of color living with our disability, spina bifida, and also to, as a community, spread awareness for daily things that we encounter and face in this world. And then in 2023, I was Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island, and now I co-coordinate the Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island state program.
Awesome. Wow, I didn't know you did all that. That's amazing stuff. So, Autumn, today we're talking about criticism, what it is, and how to turn something useful into instead of letting it shut us down. Can you give us a little example of what is criticism?
I feel like through being a student at CU, I have had to not only get receive criticism from. I like to use the word feedback instead. Like that's how I
Perfect.
interpret the word
Perfect. Yeah.
feedback from my lab faculty, Sonia Thomas,
Mm.
and my peers at CU and other instructors that I've met along the way of my journey. And um, at CU, like having that feedback, that criticism is really crucial in order to develop as a student and as a individual and future leader. So um, it's really valuable in that space.
Yeah. A couple of things for those that don't know. What is CU?
Oh, sorry. I say CU a lot. When I say CU, I mean College Unbound, where I
Cosmo,
went to school.
and that's a college here in Rhode Island.
Yes, and it's because we have hybrid learning, which is
Okay.
what I use a lot. So we actually are spread out across like the New England area. We have multiple locations for CU now.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Like you mentioned earlier, criticism, like it can be feedback to a lot of another term is feedback too. And it doesn't have to be bad criticism, bad feedback, it could be good feedback too. Was there a time that you received something, a feedback that kind of stuck with you?
Um, Mainly, this is kind of it's not really under the experience of being a student at College Unbound, but when I was a title holder for Ms. Wheelchair Rhode Island and I
Mm-hmm.
was putting together my platform, which is like I said earlier, embrace your unique abilities within your disabilities as well as others' unique abilities. I had received feedback on that part because when I was going to the national competition, I was told that possibly judges would take points off for me using the term unique abilities, and to kind of clarify that, like, I'm not using that as like a cover up word for disabilities. And I don't, not I'm not afraid to use the word disabled. I understand that it's
Mm-hmm.
important to use that word, but I think it's also important to frame others' minds as well as your own mind if you're the
Yeah.
person living with a disability, that there's unique abilities within that and to kind of showcase that. And um so yeah.
Yeah. we we tend to get stick with one terminology, and it's very hard for people to switch and use a different word like unique abilities. I know for myself, a lot of times I would use disability, or have a disability instead of a unique ability or something like that. And it's interesting that you said like the judges will might take points off of that, and we just have to keep talking about it and kind of educate people about this different terminologies. Well, how did you deal with that, like emotionally?
Yeah, I didn't think of it as like negative
Hmm.
feedback. I think it was very helpful feedback in that time because I was just kind of focused on how I look at that term and how I
Hmm.
process that term in my mind, where it did kind of help. Like, yeah, it could look like I'm covering up the term disabled, or they think
True.
that I'm not fully confident in my disability. So that's why I changed it up to unique abilities within your disability so that the
Yeah.
judges still understood that, like, I'm not shying away from that term, I'm just amplifying, um, the positives in having a disability.
Unique, unique abilities within your disability.
Mhm.
I like that too. And that was your platform too. You said, right?
Yes, that's what I
Yeah.
used,
Yeah.
throughout my year, yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
Thank you.
Have you ever had to give someone else feedback?
Yeah, I've had to do that, in many in many areas of my life, mainly, like, at CU as a peer, I've had to give feedback to other peers of mine, about their, core project, their point of advocacy, their passion project, um, and also, like, as because I started being a co-state coordinator for the Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island program last year, and we did have a title holder at the time, so I used, like, criticism in that sense of, like, giving her positive feedback, as she went throughout her, year as Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island and got ready for her her national competition.
Yeah, a lot of times giving feedback, or when people give us feedback, it's things that they've learned from prior experience. And that's one thing we have to, sometimes when we receive it, and we have to think about like what are we receiving right now? Like we have to ask ourselves, what kind of feedback is this? Am I getting right now? Is it appreciation? Is it coaching, or is it evaluation? And are they coaching us? Like it sounds like you do a lot of more of like a coaching type of style feedback from
Mm.
like the CU or the Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island. Um, and but your experience, and help them out, and help those individuals be successful in what they're currently doing too.
And I do, like to add on to that, I do a lot of the same type of criticism feedback, within my mentoring, like mentoring Victoria,
Yeah,
or mentoring the Spina Sisters Empowerment Collective as a whole.
yeah. What advice would you give someone struggling with negative feedback right now?
For me, what has been important and what I would tell others when receiving negative or not so great feedback or criticism is to try to reframe like it in a negative so when I was starting at college Unbound, one of the first classes you take as a student is called Reframing Failure. And for me, that was a very crucial class for me to understand the concept of, especially as a self advocate and learning to be an advocate for others at the time. And so now, whenever I do receive negative feedback or answers from like doctors or whoever I encounter, I try my best to think positively of the feedback, try to reframe it in a more positive way because a lot of the times we might hear that things are a no or it's not going to work. Um, and so, in a way, I've tried to reframe my mind to think like it is going to work. We just may have to go a different avenue or path with
Mm,
where what we're trying to get as our end goal.
mm. I like that they in your college they make you take a class called Reframing Failure. That's an awesome idea and awesome topic. Um, are there any? Do you know any like strategies or anything they taught in that class that you can share today?
One that has stuck with me is like we had to or a couple things is we did like an activity like a failure acronym. Can't really remember exactly what my acronym was and stood for exactly, but it was the word failure, and we had to pretty much um write out what each letter meant for us, but in a way where it's reframing the way we look at failure. And then another crucial resource that I got from that class was, I think it was called like a failure plan or something like that, where we had to actually like think of scenarios. It was in regards to our project, pretty much like using my project and thinking of it. Okay, if something like getting a venue didn't work out, what steps can I take to
Mm,
reframe that failure or to get over that hurdle? So kind of planning ahead is important when thinking of like failure or like criticism or like stuff that didn't go
yeah.
your way.
Yeah, that's a great tip, planning ahead or try to think a little bit of what can I do. Have like a plan A, then a plan B, or maybe a plan C too if something doesn't go well or doesn't go the way you expect it. And also remember, like sometimes things don't even go the way you want to, the way you think they should go, and that's okay. And to kind of take a step back and take a breath and say, okay, what can I do now? And having that plan in place, a plan B in place, is very helpful.
It helped me look at like a lot of things in my past in a whole different perspective, and I feel like in a way it helped me like heal and move forward. Like I experienced a lot of ableism and just society treating me unfairly based on the fact that I have a disability or
Hmm.
that I'm a woman of color. So in a way it helped me look at those past experiences and how can I challenge those narratives that people put upon me.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the tips I can give to people and that I'm trying to do myself is pause before reacting. And a lot of I think it's called the 24-hour rule. Like you give time to decide how to respond, and also maybe you give time for the other person to respond and not just to react right away immediately. Because a lot of times when we do react immediately, we tend to say or do something that we regret, and it can cause even more problems down the line. And taking a step back and taking a breath or counting to 10 or going to removing us from the situation, going to a different location, a different room or whatever, and then coming back and talking with that person, or just right, even like now we're connected 24/7 with our phones and social media, and there's a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism out there online. And before we respond to a comment, we have to think like, how do we want to respond to it? What kind of feedback is this? And not to say something, you know.
Mhm. I've learned that a lot as I've gotten old, like the past
Yeah.
5 years or so. I've learned like how important it is to not just react. I think I've always been conscious of it, but like now more than ever, since I'm in more professional
Hmm.
areas of my life, I'm learning to like okay, take that couple of hours or like you said, 24 hours to think and process what I should say or how I should react.
Yeah. The other tip that I'm starting to do a little bit is to journal things out and just write things out, like write how I feel, writing um down ideas that I want to do, or like write my plan down too. Journaling or a diary too is another great tip, and just writing those things out that maybe only you see. And like a physical journal, maybe your notes app on your phone or a tablet or whatever.
That's actually, like, another thing I learned within CU is how much journaling is important, like, in
Hmm.
order to keep track all the way until we get into capstone our final semester at College Unbound, we
Hmm.
have it's called a personal learning plan, where it's pretty much like a digital, journal where we have to each week, kinda just put how each class has gone, what things didn't go so well, and, like, how can we improve that, and it just helps, like, and I also like seeing, like, my academic, progress and journey through that
Yeah.
personal learning plan.
How do you balance protecting, like, your peace and staying open to growth?
I still find that that's a hard balance for me because,
Mm,
like, I wanna help so much, but especially in the area of disability advocacy, it can get draining, so,
yeah.
like, I'm learning, and I think I forgot I think it was on TikTok. I'm always on TikTok, but, um the person was talking about, like, how important it is to just say the word "no," and it doesn't have to be any other explanation after that, like, no what they said was, "No" is a full sentence, and so I'm learning how to and I'm getting better at it each year because I'm listening to my body and I'm listening to my mind, and as much as I wanna help out, I'm learning that it's okay to say no or even just say not just no, but, like, say maybe not right now, maybe at a later time, and learning that when I say that, people 9 times out of 10 are gonna um, take that no in, like, in a positive way. It's not gonna hurt anyone's I was afraid of, like, hurting someone's feelings or, just not feeling like I'm a dependent person for someone to rely on where, like, sometimes it like, because 'cause I've learned that, like, I've overworked myself to
Mhm.
the point where it was unhealthy for me and I was forced to take a break, so, yeah, learning to say no and pace myself has been something that's a struggle, but I'm learning.
Yeah, that's something I'm learning too in the past 5 to 6 years, uh, now that I'm doing more and, like, I'm the same way, I don't like to say no too, I like to always help people, and really it comes down to it when we like you say, we don't wanna overwork ourselves, it really comes down to, like, our mental health because when we keep going, 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 we don't give us time to a break and really just to relax and just take a step back from it and give our brain that break it needs.
Mhm,
We can have a breakdown ourselves, so we have to schedule time. Just like say no or say like I can, yeah, I'm interested in doing it, but maybe I can be touch base in a couple months or a week, couple weeks down the road or whatever. And I'm learning how to use my calendar too,
mhm.
and scheduling things and uh, yeah, we learn as we go, and sometimes as we get older and we do stuff, we make those mistakes, and this is okay, but we can learn from those too.
Even in college, I'm bound that's one of the things that we talk about. It's one of the big 10s actually, but lifelong learning and what I learned from doing that, Big 10 and submitting it and reflecting on what I've done in my life to be a lifelong learner. I've learned that, like, it really you really do learn throughout all stages of your life. You're never gonna know everything, um at any point in your life, there's always room to grow, and that's what I've learned in general at being at CU is that there's so many people in that college that come from all types of walks of life that I learn from them every day.
Awesome. So you said you use TikTok, and which is a form of social media. Do you have any advice for youth and young adults out there using social media about when it comes to someone commenting on the post or video and maybe it's not it could be good or bad feedback?
I think like you said earlier, like taking like if it's something that you may think is like the person's coming from, like, a negative
Mhm.
space, like, it is, like you said earlier, good to take those few moments or, maybe even a couple hours and come back to the post or the comment and reply back, because sometimes a lot of people are not aware of, like, how their question or their comment is coming off of, like, for example, when I was Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island and I was talking about the program, the Miss Wheelchair America and Rhode Island program. Somebody had commented, like, along the lines of, like, why does it have to be called Miss Wheelchair Rhode Island? Like, why can't we call it just Miss Wheelchair? And I mean, just like Miss Rhode Island, like something like that, they said. And and that was a time where I like at first I was like, okay, this person I think is not really understanding like the whole point of the program and um, it's not excluding the able bodied community, our program, but it's uplifting voices and people
Mm.
that don't get heard often. We're a marginalized community that doesn't really get heard often. And I feel like those programs are a very powerful way to get our voices out there, our faces recognized and heard. And so I pretty much had to explain that why it's geared towards women in wheelchairs.
And that is a good example and good good feedback to give those too. So, Autumn, before we go, is there anything else you like to say, mention, anything you're working on, or share?
No, just to kind of reiterate what we talked about earlier is that like when you receive criticism, whether it's negative or positive or well negative, always think of the whole reframing failure that we talked about earlier and taking a moment to step back and analyze what you're being told because in the moment it can sound like very negative feedback, but in a way the person could be looking out for you and giving you positive criticism. It's just the way that you're hearing it may sound negative. So always reframing the way you're interpreting and thinking of a situation is what I would leave with.
Awesome. And Autumn, where can people find you if they want to follow you? Or can they find you on social media? Or do you have a website?
My Instagram and TikTok, I believe, are the same thing. So beauty by rain, with two underscores, that would be my preferred.
And is Rain Rain?
Yes, RAIN.
So Beauty by Rain. I'll put that in the show notes for everyone too.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for being here, Autumn. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it and you received some great information and great advice. And I'll see you on the next one. Until next time, stay unstoppable, stay learning, and most of all, stay you.